Hello, everyone. Welcome in. We're waving the yellow flag. Just chaos, just absolute chaos in the middle of nowhere, Kansas City, Missouri. And if you have a problem saying that Kansas is in the middle of nowhere, well, you're just offended and probably are Noah Gragson right now and been hit in the face a few too many times. That being said, the Kansas race just wrapped up. And Joe, I think it's easy to say that was the greatest race of the season so far. We had passes, we had crashes, we had fights. And unfortunately, Kyle Larson for you is unable to hold on the last lap, hits the wall, battling Denny Hamlin at the end as Denny Hamlin wraps up the win. Where do you begin today's post-race show?
Well, I agree with you, hands down, by far the best race of the season. NASCAR just sent F1's bags packing back across the sea. Yes. Hands down, the best race series on the planet, as proven today after that boring F1 race that I attempted to watch in the middle of the NASCAR race, but was unsuccessful. As far as this race as a whole, I mean, we had a little bit of everything, right? We had some four wide racing, we had some wrecks, we had drivers losing control, we had a wreck for the win at the end, we had a fight. What more could you ask for? What a great race.
We had the fight nobody saw coming, Joe. Out of all the people to be picking on Ross Chastain, we look down and it's bowl cut Noah Gragson himself, who doesn't even, who is the one that gets hit. He's the one that takes the punch out of all the people, all the things Ross Chastain has done. Noah Gragson is the one that falls victim to Ross Chastain. Many fall victim to Ross Chastain due to his vehicle. Noah Gragson falls victim to Ross Chastain due to his fist.
For something that wasn't even that bad. It's awesome. Noah Gragson said, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. I'm stepping up to the plate, and I'm going to take a punch for everybody.
When all the drivers say, I mean, Kyle Busch got into it earlier with them, we've heard, Brennan Poole said somebody needs to beat this guy's ass. And then when somebody finally confronts him,
yes,
in a manner of, let's just say, not to talk words, not to say words, to a physical manner, you could tell by his approach that he was wanting to do something that's not out of the realm for Noah Gragson. Ross lets him grab him. Then then Noah pulls him. And then Ross says, well, enough of that. Stick right to the face.
Nice little jab there. Nice little jab. He scored a couple points on that jab.
I will say this. Today's race is the pinnacle of everything NASCAR needed.
Yeah.
It had a great race. It had two of the prominent people racing for the win in Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. It had an incident on the last lap that will be played again. And for as dirty as racing for the lead and somebody hitting the wall can be, that was probably about as clean as it can get. I know Denny Hamlin came out to a lot of boos, and obviously you and I were joking back and forth off air, but Kyle Larson, he was losing his car. His car was gone.
He was.
He got loose coming out of turn two. Denny Hamlin probably finished it a little bit more. Denny Hamlin even said, I'm glad he was able to finish. And that's the more important thing to me. When two drivers touch, we all say that rubbing is racing. I just want both drivers to be able to finish. I don't want Kyle Larson to get 33rd because of two turns left. He ends up getting a second place. Denny Hamlin wins. All of that. Then you get the fight at the end with NASCAR's most prominent driver in terms of being hated. And Ross Chastain didn't back down from it. They said it so many times today, and I've said it on here. Ross Chastain, I don't care if he drives the way he drives. It's the consistent apologizing that drives me insane. Own whoever it is that you are. If you're the guy that doesn't take shit and you wreck people on the track, own it. Take it. Do whatever you can. Sell tickets for it. Okay? Love to be hated. And today, to Ross's credit, and Joe, I think as another man would say, when somebody initiates hands on you,
right,
the cause and effect is that person will then have the open door to initiate hands back, and I don't see anything Ross did wrong.
Well, I mean, and all the things that Ross Chastain has done over the last 2 years, to get into a physical fight over that, on the last lap racing in the middle of the pack is kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because that's probably the most or the least egregious thing we've seen him do to get somebody's tempers flaring, right? So I think that little situation's funny. I think that's more of a microcosm of the hype, kind of like you were saying of, now anytime Ross Chastain bumps somebody, touches somebody, causes them to get loose, it's going to be Ross's fault. And that's exactly what we saw. If that is Chase Elliott bumping Noah Gragson at the end of the race, nothing said.
Right.
The only reason why that happened is because it was Ross Chastain. But I love it. I love that. I love the fact that, these drivers are emotional about things like that, and they're pouring their heart, sweat, and tears into this, and that shows at the end of the race. But I think I'm just about as giddy as you can get over the race we just watched. We said on our weekly show here that we get to watch one of these cookie cutters mile and a half, and these are exactly what these cars are made for. And man, did they come through big today.
Yes. And if you haven't seen it yet, because this is as fresh as we've been able to do on a post-race show. So hopefully you're joining us wherever you are. And first off, thank you. This is Stuck in the Catch Fence. I don't even know if I announced myself. I'm Ryan Peters. This is Joe Spillman. It's been crazy. We want to jump on here because we've had so many races where we're just like, okay, how do we find content? What do we tell you that was great about it when it wasn't? Today, none of that. We're going to miss things that happened in this race because we're all digesting it together as soon as it got done. But I do want to show you, if you haven't seen it yet, and this is kind of a funny headline. I'll back it up just a little bit. Okay, so this is already after Noah Gragson grabbed Ross Chastain. Okay, so he grabbed him earlier. They talk a little bit about it, and BR betting has really good headlines. So grabs him, boom, and just sticks him right in the face.
That was a nice. That was a little bit more than a jab. That was a nice little right cross there.
It was. It definitely.
To Noah's credit, though, he didn't move his head hardly at all, which tells me that Ross Chastain punches like a little bitch.
Well, that's also true. So Larson is trending on 4 currently in the United States. I'm not sure. I'm surprised Ross isn't on there as much. Daniel Suarez is, for whatever reason, trending, but again, trending with Ross and Denny, things of that nature. And a lot of you that are older are probably going, what does that have to do with anything? And it absolutely has something to do. When you mentioned today, Joe, the Miami Grand Prix happened, and I haven't watched any of it yet. All I know is I got on Twitter I got on my sportsbook app to see what the odds were currently in the NASCAR race. And it wasn't halfway through the Miami Grand Prix, and Max Verstappen was minus 1,500.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, well, that's to be expected. Boring race.
What was he when it started? Minus 1,200?
No, he was actually positive. He was plus 2.
No,
he
was he?
He was. He was plus 150. Checo was minus. He, before the race started, Joe, was minus 500 to win the championship.
Well, here's a little tidbit of information for you. There was more lead changes in Kansas today than the entire F1 season last year.
Holy sweet Jesus. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah, we had the same phenomenon in Daytona this year. So, yeah, I can't get over. This is exactly, hopefully, I'm kind of anxious to see what the viewer ratings were that will come out. I think on Tuesday we'll get those, and how many people actually got to catch this race competing with the Miami Grand Prix. I would assume most NASCAR fans probably did what I did. I had NASCAR up on my TV. I had the F1 race going on my iPad sitting right next to me, kind of keeping an eye on it. But my God, are those things boring. But here's another tidbit. I kind of texted you during this. In the entire 90-minute race that F1 was on TV, I was counting the amount of times that NASCAR went to commercial. So in that 90 minutes, NASCAR went to commercial 14 times. Now we're going to take away 4 of those for we'll take away 4 of those for, we had the end of stage 2, and then also we had 3 cautions or 4 cautions in that time. So we'll take away 4 of those cautions. Mm-hmm. So we'll say during that 90-minute time, NASCAR went to commercial at least 9 times, I think 10, during green flag racing. That has got to stop.
One of the first commercials, and I called somebody and I said, this is so infuriating. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr. coming out of turn 2, coming up on lap traffic, nose to nose, full screen commercial.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
And you know, again, it's just so frustrating. But
while we were gone, you missed 14 lead changes. Let's get you up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's just the way Fox is. You know, I feel like there's a hard line that they say no matter what happened. There could be a car, Joe, doing front flips on the front stretch, and it goes, looks like we got a wreck. We'll be right back. I mean, it just seems like there's such a hard cut that Fox producers have, and there is no play with it. There's no like, can we delay this 30 seconds? Can we stack commercial breaks during this? Because the stage breaks take 15 minutes now.
Yeah, and you know what? I've conceded the fact that you have to have commercials go side by side. Why are you cutting away the racing action? Do you think people? I'm not going to get on a rant about it. I'm just saying that maybe we should stop cutting to commercial in the middle of competitive racing.
Right. Really good racing today, too. I mean, we've had some stinkers.
The F1 won by like 14 seconds. They didn't cut to commercial the entire time.
Yeah, I heard there was no yellow flags in the race, the F1 race. I heard nobody DNF'd. No. So, I mean,
you're right. The only contact actually was on the opening start coming into the first turn. There was some contact. Some people had to pit, but outside of that, I mean, it was followed. I mean, there was some moves in the middle of the pack, but I mean, let's be honest, that's not really that exciting.
No, especially on a road course race, it's really hard. Baku was okay middle pack racing, but you know, the Miami track is just to get a race in Miami. It's not meant to be a track. It's not ran well. I mean, half of it's like on ramps and off ramps on the interstate. So like, whatever, you know, it is what it is. But NASCAR should look at this and go, okay, we had, and this is another thing too, Joe. They're going to have this same type of thing happen where I again thought NASCAR came out king on Memorial Day. The greatest day in racing is Memorial Day. You have the Monaco Grand Prix in the morning, which whoever starts out front wins that damn thing. You have the Indy 500, the greatest spectacle in racing, they want to call it. Traditionally not been a great race. Last year's Coca-Cola 600 was one of my favorite races. It felt like 14 different chapters were wrote during the Coca-Cola 600, and they have been marketing the Coca-Cola 600 really well. I will say that. I've seen a lot of commercials for it. Right. They definitely have used the pageantry of it with it being Memorial Day, and I think that's great. They should be doing that. But here's an example of what they should do and say, if you were able to watch the Miami Grand Prix and tuned into us, this is what NASCAR's like every week. So wherever you're from, wherever you're at, this is the type of racing you get every week, where we have more passes today than you saw last year. And you're not talking speedway racing, Joe. You're talking actual legit passes on the track, and that's what made today so good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, and typically, even when we look at a Martinsville or a Richmond race, you know, I thought Atlanta was pretty good. Probably enjoyed that a little bit more because we were actually there. But I thought the racing as the whole and the passing, at least in the last stage at Atlanta,
was in the
excellent.
Last stage, yes.
Yeah, you know, I think they played follow the leader for the first 2 laps, and that had a lot to do with the race that took place there the night before in the Xfinity series when they couldn't run a lap. But, you know, outside of that, even what we think as NASCAR fans as a boring race, when you compare that to an F1 race, it blows it out of the water as far as the action that actually happens in the race, if that makes sense. So you're absolutely right. If anybody watched the F1 race today and they're an F1 fan, and then they happen to tune into the NASCAR race 90 minutes into the race, you know, and saw what they saw today, I don't know how you're not hooked on NASCAR.
Yeah, and you had Lewis Hamilton. I imagine Lewis Hamilton gets out of the car today, Joe. I think he qualified like 10th or 12th or something like that. Ends up finishing 7th. If you haven't watched it, sorry. But ends up finishing not very good. imagine him, which he did say this, that he wants to try NASCAR, then turns on the NASCAR race, could start 12th, go 4 or 5 wide on the very first lap and gain 6 positions. And that would be a great race in Formula One. If you gain 6 positions off the track or on the track, you could have done that today on the first lap. And I think a lot of drivers now, the more that they end up watching NASCAR, are going to concede that, wow, this is just way better racing. And NASCAR definitely needs to hone in on that and say, today is the reason why Lewis Hamilton, why Kimi Räikkönen has come over, why Jenson Button has come over, because this is the type of racing we produce. We even have better road course racing than the others do, because our Circuit of the Americas race was 10 times better than theirs. And not to make this a complete comparison, but today on U.S. soil, we got to see the Formula One series compete directly with the NASCAR series, and it was hands down the best. And God forbid there actually be a punch thrown between those 115-pound Formula One drivers.
Yeah, well, no question. I mean, what? And I'll wait because nobody will be able to answer this, but you've never once in the entire history of F1 seen a driver get wrecked, spin out, save his car, go to the back of the pack, and then work his way all the way back up to be running first on the last lap of the race. That doesn't happen. We saw Kyle Larson go to the back today. Chase Elliott started in the back. He was up near the front. Kyle Busch gets caught for speeding for the 19,000th time. He works his way back up to the front before being wrecked out. And which Kyle Busch took that a lot better than I thought he was going to. But anyway, you have that ability in NASCAR. You have that ability to play strategy, run great, and salvage a race even after getting a lap down. You couldn't do that in F1.
No, absolutely not. So let's jump in, Joe. We've buried the leader for a while now with Denny Hamlin winning this race. And I said
I'm not talking about that.
I said on the weekly show that I thought Denny Hamlin would have a chance to win this race. It just seems like he's been running really well and, has been fast at this track. It was really not a dominant performance by him. He had a dominant practice car, not great qualifying car, and then Toyota blew up speed, and then somehow out of nowhere, William Byron finally made his way back because he looked like he was in all sorts of trouble. I mean, dude hit the wall twice. He almost lost it by himself, like right at the beginning, starting on the pole, sped in pit lane during green flags. I mean, one hell of a day for William Byron. So him to come away with a top 5 is like a story in itself, like you were talking about.
Right.
But Denny Hamlin ends up winning. This is now back-to-back wins for JGR. And we saw this last year, and we kind of talked about this, in the weekly show, where it seems like Toyota is more geared to these 1.5 miles, and they kind of hit this stretch last year. And now next week we're going to Darlington. Do you see Toyota putting up a little bit more of a stand now as we are in the middle of the season?
Well, I think Darlington is going to be, more of a super speedway style race where the manufacturer doesn't really happen, but I do or matter. But I do think that Toyota is definitely on the rise. I mean, like most of the Toyota cars and the JGR cars competed well today. Ty Gibbs even competed well. He was kind of wrecked out by his own teammate. Martin Truex drove well today. Obviously, Denny Hamlin drove well. They were all fast all day long. Did Bubba Wallace end up finishing in the top 5?
Well, Joe, you mentioned it, so let's go ahead and get to it. Let me pull it up for everybody. Go ahead.
I don't know if you could see that, but I also want to mention I won $25 today on my fantasy lineup.
I did not see that. I had what we call a very disappointing 10 minutes. I had 2 lineups, which would have been great. I mean,
right.
My one lineup today, let me pull it up because the dust should have settled on FanDuel.
It has. And I'll tell you what, I always, we have our little local fantasy group that we do. And for whatever reason, I do a lineup for that. And I always think, well, let's change it up when I enter the money lineups, which I did. And as you could see with my lineup on there, I finished second to last. And then my lineup for the money races today, much better lineup, I think, with I actually had Noah Gragson in that lineup, but I had Ross Chastain, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, and Noah Gragson. Won me $25. So I should have entered that in our local lineup.
Yeah. So today, like I was saying, Joe, I had two lineups, and the first lineup that I had that you saw, Kyle Larson gets second, Denny Hamlin first, Tyler Reddick ninth, and Austin Dillon gets 10th. So I'm like, wow, that's 4 out of 5 in the top 10. That's really good, including the top 2. Then Ty Gibbs wrecked. And you're like, oh, man, Ty Gibbs wrecked. Well, what really sucked is my other lineup had Ross Chastain, 5th, Martin Truex, 8th, Tyler Reddick, 9th, Justin Haley from 30th to 18th, which is really good. And you're like, oh, that must be really good too. Nope, that lineup had Kyle Busch. And all of that happened within 15 minutes. Those two people wrecking and coming out of the race to ruin my absolute day. But you mentioned, did Bubba Wallace end up having a good finish? And he did. He ended up finishing in the top 5. So here it is right here. He finished
on a rare take. I think I took him during the weekly show.
We both took Bubba Wallace as our bottom 20. But you took Kyle Larson. I took Denny Hamlin. So that's going to bump up my lead even more. Yes. So
I took Denny Hamlin too.
Would you?
Yes.
I'm going to fact check it.
You could fact check it because I didn't take Martin Truex Jr. and I said I wanted to as my 6th driver.
Let me see. You took Martin Truex Jr.
I did not.
Yes, you did.
I didn't take Denny Hamlin.
You took Bubba Wallace, Martin Truex, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and you took Brad Keselowski as your 6th because I allowed it.
Oh, well, I take that back. I wanted Denny Hamlin for my 6th.
So Denny Hamlin gets the win. Kyle Larson gets 2nd place. William Byron again, an amazing 3rd place for one hell of a day. Bubba Wallace was fast today. Again, 23:11 has this place set down. Ross Chastain finishes 5th. He was up in the top 3 most of the day. Joey Logano turned his race around. It says he started 6th, but he did not race 6th the entire day.
No.
Chase Elliott slowly got faster as the day went on. I think they said he was the fastest car by the end of the race, but he was already 5 seconds back. Martin Truex Jr. was kind of like back and forth. He was either battling for the lead or battling for like 9th, which was kind of weird. Tyler Reddick started off really, really fast and then slow. And then Austin Dillon, I have no idea how the hell he got top 10. He was running 20th the entire race, was able to turn that around. And then kind of back here, Kevin Harvick was up there a little bit. Ricky Stenhouse with another solid run. You mentioned, wrecking. Eric Almirola wrecked by himself and ends up with a top 15. So not bad for him. JJ Yeley, your boy, top 25. Good for him.
JJ Yeley was 4th at one point.
Yeah, he was.
And then they restarted. He went straight to the back.
And then three probably top 10 in speed drivers here. Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, and Christopher Bell all wrecked. Christopher Bell wrecks by himself. Kyle Busch on a restart with like 2 laps left to end the stage gets behind 9 cars that are on, just absolute garbage tires. He ends up getting spun out. It is a racing thing. It ends up happening. And then Ty Gibbs, you mentioned you thought that Martin Truex had a little bit to play with that. I think Ty Gibbs just sent it, and the rookie, instead of taking his medicine and just losing 2 spots, said, no, I'd rather wreck. And that's how he wrecked.
We have a comment here. Soup 500 says,
Soup?
What's up? Soup 500 says, what's up?
Soup, S-O-U-P or S-U-P?
Yes. S-O-U-P 500.
Says, Soup 500.
Says, what's up?
What's up? What's up? Can we get a detailed analysis of why Soup 500?
Well, let's just ask him. Why Soup 500?
Has he tried 500 soups, and the 500 one was his favorite?
Maybe.
Was there a NASCAR race called the Soup 500 that Joe and I have never heard of before?
What a race, he says.
It's not what we asked.
Yeah. We want to know why your name is Soup 500.
Does he run around his kitchen 500 times until the soup is ready in the microwave?
Here we go. He says, I live in Scotland and had a lot of, there's a little emoji in my way. A lot of something. Because cheap, and I love the Daytona 500. Oh, okay. Apparently he lives in Scotland and he gets a lot of soup. Well, thanks for putting it in from Scotland.
From Soup
That's awesome.
500 from Scotland, bonjour. We appreciate you joining us.
Yes, that's pretty cool. And it was a great race, Soup. I thought it was an excellent race, by far the best. Soup, did you tune into the F1 race today as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. Is F1 as popular in Scotland, or is that more like BBT or the like British touring series? Do they like more of that type of racing? That'd be a good question.
Soup did not watch the F1 race today.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, be lucky he didn't, because it was terrible.
Soup 500, what is your favorite driver? We would love to know.
I would like to know. I bet it's Kyle Larson.
I bet it's not. If you would like to join us, Soup, in our mission to get to 500 subscribers.
Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin.
It was a great day for him then. It was a great day for him. Denny Hamlin's loved in Scotland. We took a poll of one person and now know that Denny Hamlin is loved in Scotland.
Yeah. So that's breaking news.
Soup, if you would like to join us on our quest of 500 subscribers, hit the subscribe button and you have a chance to win a Denny Hamlin diecast. I will ship it internationally to you if you actually do win the subscription / giveaway, whatever you want to call it.
Or
charity event.
Or if you want to come to your senses and be a Kyle Larson fan, if you so choose, I'll ship you one of those.
You will do that out just to do it. Just for him to wear that badge of honor that says Kyle Larson.
Yes.
It's a very generous gesture of you.
We're building a kingdom.
We are building an international enterprise. It sounds like.
Sky Blazer RC says Richmond, Virginia loves Denny Hamlin as well. Yeah. Okay.
Virginia, that's where Hamlin is from. So yeah, that makes more sense. Granted, if we were going to choose a driver that we said, who would Scotland stand behind, Joe? That would be a discussion that would have zero intellect and it would just be pure guessing and pandering.
No. Well, as of now, we have information that Scotland is 100% behind Denny Hamlin.
And this is a missed opportunity for myself to put Denny Hamlin in a kilt and have that as our thumbnail. And that is something that I will look forward to doing in the future just for Soup 500. And he may be the only person that gets it. He might be the only person that clicks on that thumbnail and goes, I don't want to see the rest of this shit. And that will be okay.
That's good stuff. Thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it.
We do. We've had a really good time with it, especially whenever people are able to join in and be a part of these live shows with us. That's why we're doing it. We're doing it for the community and to jump in as well. And if you guys have any questions, if you guys want to give your thoughts, if you guys want to just keep Joe entertained the entire time, because Joe is at Command Center 1. I can't see the things that Joe gets to see. So I have to just rely upon him.
So Soup 500 says he is the whole of the British NASCAR fan base.
Okay. That's it.
Just him.
Well, that could be a good thing and a bad thing. You don't have to listen to, people making fun of you for being a Denny Hamlin fan. So, I mean.
Right. Yeah, just tell him he's like a soccer player.
Yeah, well, they would probably know that that's not true. Like in the United States, Joe, like if we said that's a soccer player, Americans would go, oh, okay. Because they'd have no idea.
Right. And you just said soccer, and Soup 500 has no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, he has no idea. Soccer? I'll sucker right in the face. I'll fucking call me Ross Chastain.
That is a terrible, terrible accent. And thanks for offending the only UK or Scottish fan that we have. That now he's not going to tune in ever. Because he just said, is that what we sound like? No, that's not what you sound like. Don't pay any attention to him. That's terrible.
We all assume, because we're Americans, that everybody sounds like Groundkeeper Willie off The Simpsons. So.
Oh, man.
Well, Soup, it was good while you were here. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Lost another one. Count that one off the list. But no, Joe, getting back to the race, I kind of want to dive in next week because Darlington is my favorite track. I mentioned that to you last week when we were doing the weekly show because kind of like today, I expect a lot of driver error. And we kind of knew that going into this race. We didn't know that it was going to be 92 degrees, but they mentioned how hot it was and what comes with hot weather, what comes with high winds, and what comes with a track that's not more than one lane or a lot of mistakes. And we saw a lot of driver error today. You don't have to worry about that next week. Darlington is tough enough by itself in that type of track where you have to either run right against the wall, and there's like, I call it like 1.5 lanes. You can run half a lane below the wall, but passing is really, really hard. And more often than not, Joe, we see drivers make errors by themselves because the track, quote unquote, is too tough to tame. Are you expecting another great week next week when we head to South Carolina?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a bad race at Darlington. I just don't think that that's possible. With the variables, the turns, each turn is a little bit different angle. Going into turn 3 and 4 is banked different than 1 and 2. It's just everybody comes out of there with a Darlington stripe. I foresee it being a great race. I can't wait till next week. I'm going to live high on this week though, and what we got to watch this week. And I think next week they'll just continue and put on another great race.
Yeah, I want to look at the schedule. Hold on real quick because I think we're hitting a pretty golden span here of races because the Coca-Cola 600 was great last year as well. Okay. Well, we have North Wilkesboro. That's the race in between the All-Star race where we have, I don't know what to expect with this car going to North Wilkesboro and all the renovations that they've done. I do know this. It was a minimum of $300 for a ticket to go to North Wilkesboro because I was going to go. That's on my birthday weekend. And I saw that and I go, I'm not going to go. Just because it's hard for me to go Friday to Sunday, but
Soup 500 wants to know what are both of our championship predictions. We actually did a show early on in the NASCAR season about that. I think probably both of our predictions may have changed a little bit, but
do I change it for the sake of what I've seen now with my eyeballs before we ever did the Daytona 500? Or do I wear my allegiance? I'll keep my allegiance. I predicted Christopher Bell to win the championship. He's done nothing to prove to me that he still can't. So
he did wreck by himself today.
Outside of today, he's proved to me that he can't. I would say that Christopher Bell would still be my choice. If you put a gun to my head and told me, I would pick Kyle Larson. But I think Christopher Bell, I'm going to stick with Christopher Bell.
And mine, as always, from the beginning of the season, has been Kyle Larson. So
I'm a Kyle Busch fan. If you can see the 18 behind me, I also used to like the 28 car whenever it ran as well. So Ricky Rudd, Kenny Irwin, early, very young Ernie Irvin fan, Swervin Irvin. So those are where my allegiances go.
I am also a diehard J.J. Yeley fan.
That's true. That is like, yeah, that's right. It's to the point that it gets brought up way too much, sometimes more than Kyle Larson.
Yeah. He had a great race today.
For J.J. Yeley, he did. And it'll be great when we get to see the all-star lineup in the making of J.J. Yeley and Ryan Newman run together.
Yes.
What probably will be next week, actually. So you will have, Joe, Rick Ware Racing on your back. I actually thought about buying you a Pit Crew shirt today. I saw it. It was $25. It said Rick Ware Racing, RWR. It was very generic looking and had no sponsors and nothing on the back. And I said, you know what? Only one person would appreciate this. Not even Rick Ware. It would be you.
That's because they want their car or their shirts to look exactly like their cars.
Oh, they've some sponsors, man. They've been sponsoring. Well,
they'll bring in some sponsors with Ryan Newman for sure.
They're always sponsored by a drug company that will probably be sued and taken off the market in about 10 years.
Yeah, probably.
So
much like Rick Ware's son.
Ooh, that's a low. Fucking Noah Gragson didn't get hit that hard. Jesus.
Oh, man.
Well, before we jump off here, Joe, I want you to rate today's race. I go back to Jeff Gluck. Last week, we were kind of down on Dover. It got rated a 60-something percent. I predict the 90s, unless people just absolutely hate Denny Hamlin and put no for that reason. But, we typically go by the flag system, checkered flag being the best, black flag being the worst. What flag are you giving today's race?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. My cat's okay. Kansas was Miss Davis, and I'm hoping she'll go to the prom with me. It was a great race. Little varsity blues.
I'm sorry. Never seen it.
Oh, my God.
I'm sorry.
No. By far the best race of the season. By far.
So what flag do you give it?
Well, green. Is there anything better than a green?
Checkered
I'll
flag.
give it a checkered flag.
Look,
hey!
I got a stranger. Say hi, Gavin. Well, I'm going to give it a checkered flag. This is what happens when you have kids and you do a live stream. So right. I give it a checkered flag. And with that checkered flag, I'm hoping we get more checkered flags because it was a great stream. See, I'm all blustered. But no, it was a great race. I hope the same thing next week. I'm expecting the same thing next week. Joe, I'll probably put out a few posts, or maybe we go through and look at next week's throwbacks and we choose our favorite throwback as well. So that should be fun as well.
I will tell you, Soup 500 has one more question, and it is,
what's that?
Do either one of us think that William Byron can win a championship? And I'll go first. I absolutely think William Byron can win a championship. The problem with William Byron is he is almost a spitting image of Jimmy Johnson, and nobody will care.
I think William Byron will have the speed. I don't know if it will be this year. All right, Gavin. Thanks for the puppetry. I think William Byron's talented enough. I think William Byron will have the speed enough. Do I think it'll happen this year? I'm not there yet because of things like that happened today. Not saying that William Byron hasn't been great all year, but a lot of self-inflicted wounds, speeding on pit road, spinning yourself out. Is he to the point where he can make a bad car good? I don't know yet. I think he can make a good car good enough to win and definitely put a great car in victory lane. But to win a championship, to advance to the next round at times, you got to make a bad car decent. And I don't know if he's there yet. Do I think he'll win a championship before he retires? Yes, I do, as long as he stays at Rick Hendrick Racing.
Oh, man.
That would be hell of a downgrade.
If he's at Rick Ware Racing, he's not finishing in the top 20 for the rest of the season.
No.
Man, that's good stuff.
Well, Soup 500 and everybody else that joined in, thank you very much. We will have a weekly show. This has been the post-race show at Kansas. The checker flag is out, and we will be with you next time.